Good morning, shoppers. Don't forget to stop by the bakery. We have hot, fresh, old-fashioned bread pudding made by Miss Louise. And don't forget, we also have some chocolate chip cookies to hand out to the kids. So stick around and I'll be showing you how to make this old-fashioned bread pudding. Welcome back to the Cozy Cottage Homestead. Today we're going to be making some old-fashioned bread pudding. I learned this recipe from a colored lady that I used to work with. Her name is Miss Louise. I believe I worked with her from the age of 17 or 18 till I was about 20. Once I learned that I was pregnant with my son, then I stopped working for a little while. And then, of course, I went back later on, a few years later after he was a few years old. But anyway, I learned a lot from Miss Louise. Working with her, we worked in a bakery. It was kind of cool because we both had a Mustang. Not the famous 1965 Mustang, but mine was a 78, and hers was a 77 or 76. Hers was a fastback, mine was a little two-door coupe with the trunk, and we always had so much fun. When we showed up at work, we would park by each other and park our cars different ways. So she was a pretty good inspiration in my life too, and she talked me into trying a lot of different things in cooking and baking and just trying different recipes. Bread pudding was one of those things that I would not touch. I think it was a textured thing. So I've wrote down the recipe and I'm going to share that with y'all today. I had to make some huge modifications because we made those lunchroom trays about the size of this bar. And as soon as that bread pudding would come out the oven, she would announce it on the speaker, and I'm telling y'all that bread pudding would be gone within an hour. There was never none left over, but we always saved us a little bit in the back and had us a little snack for later. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to need is your bread. Preferably the stellar is the better. We used a lot of the French bread and out-of-date bread that was on the shelf in the bakery. This is about 10 to 12 cups. I've let it set out for 2 or 3 days. A frugal tip on the bread: if you have the ends or a few pieces towards the end of your loaf gets kind of stale and no one wants it, put it in a freezer bag. Keep collecting it and collecting it and collecting it. When you get about a gallon-sized bag full of bread, take it out, chop it up, and make some bread pudding. Frugal, frugal, frugal tip. Nothing goes to waste here on the homestead. And if we don't eat it, we feed it to the animals. So the first thing you're going to need is 4 eggs beaten. I have a few eggs. Girls aren't laying too much right now, but we are getting a few. Go ahead and get those in there. Always check my eggs just because you never know. Let me just take that lid off of my little compost bin right there. Sure, some of you have already figured out what it is. It was just a large can, like you would get maybe dehydrated foods, or a large, I forgot what the number is on it, but it's the large can. And I painted it, and then I lined it with a Ziploc bag, and then I just kept the lid, and that's my little kitchen compost bin right there. And I'll carry that out to the larger compost bin later. So just have a little egg scrambler whisk type deal. I'm just going to break up the egg yolks and whip it up a little bit. You want the egg yolks to be beaten in a pretty large size bowl. This little gadget works good. You just push down on it and it just beats the eggs. I found that it's a lot easier on my arms to use this. I'm always looking for gadgets that make life a little bit easier, but off-grid. And then, of course, you can just whisk it with it. So that was 4 large eggs. And I'll leave the recipe in the description below. And then we have 1 You can use 1 packet of the dry powdered mix or just 4 cups of milk. I use the powdered milk for baking and cooking. I've shared that with y'all before, and it's really good, especially to save on your what we call drinking milk. Go ahead and give that a stir as well. Mix it up real good. It's getting a little full. Y'all gonna have to excuse it if you see a fly in the video. It has been so hot here and so wet and so damp. So we got flies and mosquitoes again. Alright, that was my 2 teaspoons of homemade vanilla, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, and half a teaspoon of salt. Go ahead and give that a stir. And then we have 1/4 of a cup of butter melted that's been cooling off. It's not hot. And I need to get my half a cup of sugar. I think I did forget that. You also could use a sugar substitute. This recipe uses fruit. Unlike most of your bread pudding recipes, it would use a lot more sugar. But this is the way Miss Louise done it and taught me how to do it. So we're just going to use a half a cup of sugar. And give that a stir. Okay, and we're going to do a zest of 1 lemon, or roughly about 1 tablespoon of lemon, or you could use lemon juice, or you could actually use both. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some lemon zest. I know y'all been hearing my puppy dog. He's getting old, and this weather changing, he's just about as grumpy as I am, because he just doesn't feel good. He's right here by my feet, just a-crying and pouting. This is a small lemon from my little lemon tree that I have. So it's not going to give me a whole lot of zest, but it's going to give me just enough. And this lemon zest actually is going to make it more shelf stable and brighten up your bread pudding. Because we made it and we left it set out in the store for 2 weeks was the expiration date that we gave it. And that was what kept it preserved and kept it from going bad. And I usually just put it in the fridge here because the temperature fluctuates so much. And I am going to go ahead and add a little bit of lemon juice to it, just because. These lemons are extremely juicy. So good. Makes my mouth water. Love lemons. So I'm just going to use half of one of these lemons because I really don't need a whole lot of lemon juice in there. Just a little bit. It's probably going to give me roughly about another tablespoon, if I even got a tablespoon of zest. But that's going to do it right there. Go ahead and give it another stir. Right, I'm going to move the camera and get y'all a little bit closer so y'all can see the next step. Okay, hope y'all can see this pretty good. Now we're just going to add a half a cup of raisins. I just like to mix them in. However, you can do it with a spoon, your hand, whatever. I usually do a little bit of both. And I'm going to mix it again. And then the other star ingredient is peaches. She always added peaches, just sliced peaches. And she said it added sweetness and texture and just made it taste good. And she was right. It makes it taste delicious. Now we're just going to pour our egg milk mixture over the top of this. On the peaches, I do want to mention to reserve your juice from your peaches in case you need a little more liquid. Now this is peaches in all natural juice. It is not the heavy corn syrup or nothing like that. It's peaches in natural juice. And go ahead and add all of that goodness in there. Alright, now you're just going to mix it all up a little bit more. Get all of your bread cubes moist as you can. And it's going to start sucking up all of that milk and egg mixture and all your spices. Okay. And I will let this sit out for about 30 minutes and see if it needs more moisture. If it does not need more moisture, I will sprinkle the top of it with cinnamon and nutmeg. Which you could go ahead and add the cinnamon and nutmeg if you wanted to ahead of time. But I generally wait and add it afterwards and just to see if I need more liquid. So all I'm going to do is let this sit right here for about a half an hour to see what my texture looks like. And I'll bring y'all right back. Okay, y'all can see how much the breadcrumbs has swollen up, or the bread cubes. And my puppy dog is bumping the camera. Sorry about that. On the nutmeg and cinnamon, it is 1 tablespoon of cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. Now this is just how Miss Louise done it. She added it afterwards. I generally add it to my mixture with the milk and the eggs and the other spices. So I do feel like this needs a little more liquid, so that juice that you reserved from the peaches, go ahead and add that in there. This was about 3/4 of a cup of the juice. You want the juice or the liquid in the bread pudding to pretty much cover even. So all that's going to cook down and make your bread pudding. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix in my cinnamon and nutmeg. And stir this all up really good. I really think she just liked getting a really boost of the flavor every once in a while throughout her bread pudding. I'm not sure if that's why she did that part last. But even when you mix it mixes in with no problem. Not hard to do. Bread pudding's very easy. This is a 9x13 dish. You can see now that the level of the moisture is more to the top of the breadcrumbs or the bread cubes, and that's what you want. Mix everything up really good. And we're going to put this in the oven, depending on the temperature of your oven, 350 to 375 for about an hour. I would suggest checking it at 45 minutes just to see what it looks like. Alright, so we're going to get this in the oven, and then I'm going to bring y'all back for a taste test. Alright, the bread pudding is out the oven. Hope y'all liked my little introductory. That was what we used to do at the place I used to work at. We had to get on the loudspeaker and make an announcement when we had hot bread pudding or hot fresh French bread. So I thought I'd just be silly and share that little part with y'all. But now we're going to go ahead and taste our bread pudding. And I'm going to bring it closer so y'all can see how it looks. Really, really moist, really good. The peaches just add a little more sweetness to it and texture to it. I'm going to bring yours closer so they can get a peek at it. It's really, really good. We just have some herbal tea right here to drink with it. Bread pudding is very frugal to make. It's also good for breakfast or just the evening snack like we're having here today. But y'all gonna have to give it a try. It's really, really good. And with saving the bread, the frugal tip that I gave earlier, you can save any kind of bread. Biscuits, muffins, crackers, not just the ends of the bread. If you have leftover hamburger buns, just save it and throw it in the freezer so you can make some bread pudding. Good?
Very good.
So that's about all for today, folks. If you enjoyed this recipe, give me a thumbs up, leave me a friendly comment, and don't forget to subscribe. And thanks for hanging out with us today and watching me make the homemade old-fashioned bread pudding. And welcome to all of my subscribers and my new subscribers, and even welcome to those that keep stopping by that haven't quite subscribed yet. Everyone's welcome. We're going to just show you our journey of homesteading. We do a lot of homemade cooking from scratch. So we'd like to have you come on back and visit with us. So farewell, homestead family, friends, and neighbors from the Cozy Cottage Homestead.